Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Simplify Clinical Trials Today, Transform for the Future with Zelta. I'm Leslie Bebko, your host from Clinical Leader and Life Science Connect. With me today, I have Jennifer Duff, General Manager from Zelta Clinical Trial Solutions. After her presentation, we'll be holding a live Q&A session. Feel free to submit questions as we go along. We'll get to as many of those as possible, and any that we don't get to, we'll follow up on after the event. If you run into any issues, please try refreshing your browser first, and if you need additional support, submit a question via the Q&A. Finally, this webinar will be available for on-demand viewing. You'll receive a link via email as soon as that's available. And with all of that said, I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer to get us started.
Thank you. Welcome, and thank you for joining me today. As mentioned, I'm General Manager of Zelta Clinical Trial Solutions, a life sciences-centric business unit of Merative. I've been in the industry for over 25 years, having started my career at Wyeth Ayerst back in the late 90s. I believe it's time we truly embrace change, and I know that can be a scary thing. As an industry, there has been significant investment in getting to where we are, and though cloud and digital technology hold great promise, they potentially come with increased risks, something that is hard to reconcile with research, and thus is leading to what I would categorize as unnecessary effort, and with that, cost. If we think in terms of controllability, many of the solutions offered today actually give us significantly more control, as well as improved ability to validate data integrity and accuracy, way better than paper or even the first-gen systems. When we focus on technology enabling improved ways of working, it can drive out cost and reduce human effort without increasing your risk profile. I know we can drive true transformation, so long as we think holistically and strategically and are willing to shed the idea that technology has to be complicated and expensive to be done well. Today, I'll share my thoughts on these ideas as well as real-world examples of how this is being realized at scale today. So what are the challenges that sponsors are trying to solve for today and in the future? First and foremost is adaptability. The ability to execute controlled change or to adapt during the research process is a must-have. A while back, one of my teams did a study of a large sponsor's rate of change. They found that on average, change happened more than 50% of the time in trials, and that it was greatest in specific therapeutic areas like oncology. Knowing that change isn't something we can avoid or stop, nor should we if it's clinically relevant, it's time to embrace reality and focus on first, reducing avoidable change, i.e. errors or misses, and second, making it easier to make change with the least amount of impact on the trial execution, meaning your sites and your participant downtime. That's what's meant by real-time adaptation. Second is agility. The ability to understand what is happening and where, with the ability to get to the why and the impact in as close to real time as possible, is critical to decision-making. I had the pleasure of hearing Carrie Lorenz speak recently, and she shared a powerful perspective. As a Navy fighter pilot, she spoke about how the ability to react in the moment with the available information was the difference between life and death. This meant being able to make decisions with 80 to 85% of the data because there wasn't time to wait for 100%. We aren't necessarily talking about life or death, though it can be, but we also don't have time to wait for 100% of the data or perfection if research is going to be effective and efficient. The quality of the inputs and the ability to understand risk can make or break decisions. So we need data access to be faster, more efficient, and most importantly, effective. Agile decision-making done well can avoid cost and increase efficiency and aligns with the goal to fail fast. So your dollars are going to the highest potential research investments. Lastly is technology. Technology is not a magic bullet. It cannot solve for broken processes or gaps in skills, But when done well, it can significantly improve execution and drive efficiency. Think about your day-to-day life. I really, really dislike self-checkout. I know some people swear it's more efficient, but for me, if I've got a cart full of stuff, it's almost always more positive and effective to go to a trained person. That being said, everything in the grocery store is barcoded now and easily accounted for during checkout. And boy, am I annoyed when they have to call someone to go look something up or enter things manually. For me, in this example, technology makes things better along with the right training and process, and it improves my experience without replacing fully digital solutions that touch the users, whether they are the site personnel, participants, or trial teams, should include a good experience and seamlessly fit the execution. When digital makes things more efficient, delivers quality input, and provides a good experience, use digital. When you need that personal touch, technology should enhance the experience, not replace it, or make things harder. We can reach more people with technology, be more inclusive, and drive better outcomes so long as we do it well. Having been around for a while, it's been interesting to see the industry evolve. Sadly, I wish I could say I was blown away by how much we've advanced. Though we've applied technology and largely eliminated legacy paper, although, God help us all, I've heard some people still use paper, the reality is we have a long way to go when it comes to true return on investment. The world we work in within clinical research is a far cry from the world we live in every day. There are some legitimate reasons for that. But at the end of the day, it's my opinion that when we are enabled to adapt faster, deliver overall improved experience, and are highly strategic with our approach, we can make tangible change happen now versus 5 or 10 years from now. When I think back over my career, I do believe that the modernized technologies in the market today are faster, leaner, and significantly easier to use than my experiences with legacy enterprise solutions. This is because these modernized technologies are leaning into the world we live in now and the technology we use in our day-to-day lives. That's an amazing opportunity and a challenge, as it is rooted in change. I do want to make sure it's clear that I believe that technology is not the only way we drive transformation. Transformation requires rethinking platforms, processes, and people. Legacy systems have created silos with processes and associated roles and responsibilities that are so deeply ingrained, they are self-perpetuating. Updating technology without rethinking processes and people only continues to lock companies into outdated methods, effectively building the same solution, but with a new provider. It's not a simple lift and shift when you're serious about transformation. Start with the end in mind, then figure out what are the big rocks in the way of getting there. Removing those rocks makes all the difference if you're serious about achieving improved and measurable outcomes. So how do we get there? I'm recommending approaching your transformation agenda with these 5 goals in mind. First, flexibility. Solving one user's challenge doesn't mean negative outcomes for others or moving the work around. Think holistically about what flexibility means and seek win-win outcomes. Second is intelligence. And what I mean by that, AI and machine learning are awesome and they are super cool, totally. However, if the focus is on a POC, a proof of concept, then we risk being nothing more than a POC. Start with the end in mind and make sure the path to get there doesn't lead to a permanent stop on the way and thus falling short of the ultimate goal. Next is scalability. Scalability truly means across the entire portfolio. That doesn't mean every solution is needed for every study, but having the ability to scale up and down as the portfolio changes over time is key to scalability. Fourth is adaptability. And we've talked about this a little bit. The speed to adapt is directly related to how much effort is required to affect change. The more adaptability is ingrained within the processes, the people, and the technology, the faster we get to our goals. And lastly is transparency. We need an ecosystem of partners to execute modern research. And we have to be able to explain and understand the what, the why, and the how we're doing things. When we can't, we increase risk and hinder the ability to avoid inefficiencies. And this has to be true across that entire ecosystem. So let's dig into each of these a little bit. Starting with flexibility. One of the things I love about where we are right now as a business is that we start with the user persona. Seek to understand, then build to solve. Making that pivot has made all the difference. Are we always 100% spot on with our first release? Of course not. However, decisions are grounded in a clear understanding and impacts can be assessed holistically, thus reducing the risk of helping one user at the expense of others. The more we listen, adjust, and see net positive outcomes, the better the overall experience. So some examples of how we've applied this persona-led approach. The digital solutions of today that we all use help us get it right the first time. I don't know about you, but I appreciate when an app or a website prompts me when I'm entering data if I've done something wrong, when I'm doing it. Instead of just spitting out a big red alert when I try and submit, and I have to go back and find the problem, and the more data you have to enter, the more annoying that is. So that's why we have real-time alerts in our systems, because that's the world we live in. That's what we want. Every study has different participant populations. So each time a person engages in a trial, it may be their first and only time. Making that experience intuitive, simple, and positive makes all the difference. For sites and clinical teams, the more they can handle change with a low learning lift, and the more the system supports the necessary workflow, the more empowered and successful they feel, and the more efficient they can operate. And when it comes to taking action, the faster we can see issues, the faster they can be corrected. Having the right data at your fingertips at the right time makes a huge difference in risk mitigation and correcting errors. Behavioral research shows that a positive experience is a positive reinforcement. Retention of participants, sites, and your clinical team members is grounded in their experience. So let's talk about portfolio. In my experience, you don't expect to execute one early phase research study and then you're done. It takes years and many, many trials to get to the end, often with numerous failed investments along the way. Right now, as an industry, who we choose to partner with can vary wildly depending on the phase, therapeutic area, region, etc. And in some cases, that is 100% legit. Working with a company that has never executed a study in Africa, when you're trying to execute a study in Africa, is probably not a good idea. However, why is that true for technology? In the old days, sure, it was true. But now, why pay for an expensive system built to support late phase research when you were executing early phase research and needed a tenth of that technology? However, what was true in the past is no longer the case. There is a lot of very complex research being done across all phases, all therapeutic areas, medical devices, etc. Case in point, our technology was leveraged for a very complicated 30,000 subject platform research study for COVID that was determining whether existing treatments, for example, ivermectin, which was in the news a lot, whether they were effective or not. That study was running on the same system that runs relatively simple first-in-human studies, that runs medical device studies, that runs complex immuno-oncology phase 3 studies. And each of these studies is getting exactly what they need, when they need it, and paying only for what they need, when they need it. In addition, because research programs are able to be run on the same system without blowing budgets, the inefficiencies related to people and process, e.g. standards and training, are being realized. So the paradigms of the past aren't necessarily necessary for the future. So adaptability. I have a quote here that I want to share. We've been able to train our teams quickly. You don't need to know computer science or programming languages to learn it. That's from a colleague at Barista. I love that quote because the reality is that the more intuitive things are, the more people engage and the more efficient they are overall. But intuitive doesn't mean simple. Research is complicated, and every research study has unique needs. The ability to turn features and functionality on or off as needed, or integrate data sources without requiring a computer degree, is key to efficiency. In my career, as trial complexity has risen, so has the size of the teams needed to execute. For example, why does setting up a clinical trial require teams of 6, 8, 10 people? From a process perspective, yes, you need quality control, but outside of that, I would argue team size is a function of execution complexity. Unless you have checkers checking checkers, in which case I recommend process reengineering. And when it comes to research, more complex trials shouldn't necessarily mean more inefficient. I don't know about you, but I find I need more apps to execute things in my day-to-day life. And yes, that adds complexity in terms of password management and remembering where to do things. However, at the end of the day, I don't have to complete a training module on every single app. Download it, poke around a bit. Usually, I've got it nailed in a few minutes. I believe the same expectation is possible in our industry. We should be able to be efficient, and our technology should enable us to do so, regardless of the complexity of the trial design or where that trial is in the process of development. Next is intelligence. My product management and development experts love talking about machine learning and ways to use technology to solve challenges. So do I. I think it's wonderful where we are. However, just because something can be done doesn't necessarily mean it should be done. Our strategy for these kinds of advanced solutions is about scalability and value. As a technology provider, and a provider that focused on building for scale, meaning all customers benefit, these solutions are a significant investment. And hence, if they aren't used or don't deliver measurable value for our users, we've flushed those investment dollars. And this means that we need to be incredibly thoughtful about the solutions, like our medical coding AI. How do they fit into the user's workflow? How does one measure value? In the case of that solution, it had to work with both WhoDrug and MedDrug. It had to seamlessly integrate with the medical coder human who owns the final decision. And it had to deliver tangible value by reducing coding effort, which it does, by 50%. So we focus on solutions that can be applied to multiple scenarios, study designs, and/or therapeutic areas, and can fundamentally drive efficiency and quality into a user-centric workflow. And when we invest in these solutions, we're honest about the evolution from first release to future release. Machine learning should get smarter with more usage, which means setting the right expectations for first release. Also being honest that sometimes machine learning isn't the right answer, though it might be the coolest. Efficient processes, empowered and effective users, and appropriately enabled technology, including machine learning, advanced automations, and other solutions, that's a winning combination. So for us, at the end of the day, when it comes to return on investment, if it isn't measurable and meaningful, we didn't succeed. It has to be measurable and meaningful. Last but not least is transparency. I am an advocate for operating in an intelligent ecosystem, whether that's in my personal or professional life. I don't expect my doctor to help me with my taxes or take care of my teeth. That's why we have specialists. The key to intelligent ecosystem in a clinical research context is to have a flexible and adaptable core that supports specialization when and where it is needed. Our customers have the ability to select the partners they need when they need them, easily and intuitively integrate their data at the individual study level, and be able to seamlessly execute through the core system, all while having the option to leverage Zelta's enterprise partners like BSI for CTMS, CTMF, or the out-of-the-box integrations with common solutions like safety systems. And in that ecosystem, we need to operate with transparency on the what, the how, and the why. Each contributor should bring expertise and capability and deliver, and they should see this as a partnership where everyone is working together to deliver on the trial. When it comes to executing clinical trials and working with an intelligent ecosystem, commitment, partnership, and transparency are key to overall success. So before we wrap up, I want to share a bit about Zelta, our vision, and what motivates us, and how we're realizing these today. So this vision statement is what motivates us and drives our business strategy. Our goal is to solve for today's and tomorrow's complex research challenges. Research is complicated enough and getting more complicated. You should expect to be able to be effective and efficient while executing. That's what motivates us. That's what drives us and how we approach what we do and what we bring to our users. So what is Zelta? Zelta is a cloud-based, modern clinical trial system built on a single code base, which means that all of the features and functionalities we offer out of the box don't require integrations, including everything in the core EDC CDMS on the left. Things like the ability to integrate data, our query management tooling, our study level reporting, those are all out of the box and included. And everything you opt into at the trial level, the things on the right, all of that's built on the same base. You literally turn solutions on or off depending on your study needs. And because we offer open APIs, out of the box integrations, and an intuitive drag and drop data migrator, you can easily enable integrations from your own partner ecosystem or select from ours. You have that flexibility, that adaptability, that adjustment during the course of executing your trials. So let's wrap this up and talk about how we simplify and help you transform. And to do that, I'd like to offer you a few proof points. This is why I believe there's a better way to execute complex clinical research. After 25 years in the industry, and having used many of the solutions out there over my career, including being the first to implement many of them, I am incredibly bullish about what we do and what our users are able to achieve. As an industry, if we want to truly evolve and transform, we need solutions that are proven, used across many, many studies, have supported from phase 1 through phase 3, have supported multiple therapeutic areas, that support a large volume of research, that are reliable, that they're delivering outcomes on a regular basis, that include advanced innovations that deliver measurable value. We talked about the medical coding, a 50% reduction in coding searches, predictive resupplies built into our solution. And we're working on numerous other workflow-enabling machine learning solutions. All of those have to deliver measurable value to our users. And they have to be able to function in a dynamic and changing technology landscape, the ecosystem. We have to be able to intelligently plug in other solutions. We can't build them all at one time. We have to be able to continue to move forward using that ecosystem and that integration capability. We have to have solutions that are user-friendly. And this means that sites, study participants, and your own teams actually like using the tools and have nice things to say about the experience. And that those solutions at the end of the day can support the complex global research of today and tomorrow. So I want to thank you for joining me today. I hope you took some nuggets and takeaways from today's presentation. And now I will open it up for questions.
All right, thanks, Jennifer. That was a great presentation. We have a lot of questions coming in, and if you haven't had a chance to submit yours yet, please do so now. Like I said earlier, we'll get to as many of these as we can. If we don't get to them during the time that we still have left, we will definitely follow up with you afterwards. So let's get right into those. The first that we have is, what is your approach to getting users trained?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So we look at training with the objective of independence and enablement. So our goal is to put resources through as self-sufficient of a training process as possible while providing the necessary support. So we initiate our training with our customers. We offer online solutions. We offered mentored build as part of the process so that there's that hand-in-hand mentoring from our experts to your resources. And then ultimately, depending on the needs of the customer, they can then work independently if they're fully up and running and comfortable, or if they need continued additional training, we offer that as well. We also provide ongoing updates and information to our users through our users forum and other tooling that our resources can access, whether it's our training team or modules within the system. So we try and be holistic about training.
It sounds like it's customizable then based on everyone's needs. Great. Okay,
Yep.
Let's see. Another one. Do you need multiple integrations to use eConsent and eCOA?
No. So our eConsent, the Zelta eConsent and eCOA solutions are offered on our existing code base. So when you initiate a study with Zelta, you have the option of bringing eConsent and eCOA into the tooling that you're using. You do not need to set up the integrations. So when you're using our eConsent and eCOA, you're setting up once, and then that information is released out into the modules, including the apps, as appropriate for the subjects or the sites. You can also use third-party eConsent and eCOA. Of course, we work in an ecosystem, so we support that. And in the case of using those solutions, you do need to set up an integration with the third parties, but it's relatively simple. We use our open APIs and our drag and drop integration tools to allow you to quickly do that.
Okay. And I think that ties into, we had another question that was submitted. What is your approach to working with other vendors? So you had said, because you do work in an environment like that, and is there more to that then too as well? What is your approach with working with other vendors?
Yeah, so we have various levels of working with vendors. Our users are able to set up those integrations at the study level. So they have relationships with partners who they've engaged with for their research trials. They set up those integrations. We don't need to be involved unless they need help. But they're fully independent and within the study. And then we actually have partnerships that we engage with within the industry that go from referrals, where there are organizations we've worked with before, we have existing integrations, we know they work well, the technology is sound, and the flow between Zelta and their systems is excellent, all the way up to partnerships like BSI, where we have fully integrated with our product and there's a direct connector into the CTMS and eTMF capabilities.
Wow. All right. Okay, got a lot of questions coming in here. Like I said, we're going to try to get to as many of these as we can. What modules or functionality of Zelta are used most often between phase 1 and phase 3?
Oh, wow. It varies wildly based on the therapeutic areas. Pretty much all of our customers are making and getting value out of that EDC CDMS core. We do find that obviously ePro is well used across the phases. eConsent has some traction. There's a lot of sites who offer solutions, and that may be the solution of choice in many cases for studies. We do see things like imaging data is more common in the later phase studies. You often don't see that in the earlier phase studies, and depending on the therapeutic area, you might have a lot more clinical outcomes assessments or patient-reported outcomes versus therapeutic areas where they may use none. So it varies greatly, and that's why that study level flexibility has been key for our customers and our user base, because they can be running a very complicated trial using a significant portion of our technology solutions down to a simpler trial where they're very focused on maximizing their usage of the core of the system.
Okay, great. Moving on, what are you doing with machine learning?
Yeah, so I touched on this a little bit. Within our tooling right now, the team developed, and this was several years ago, developed the medical coding with AI. We see that being well used within the portfolio, and our user base does reap reward and benefit out of that, which to us is key. We also have predictive resupply capabilities. Where we're focusing on the future is this idea of within workflow enablement of machine learning. And there's a lot of industry chatter around the concept of large language models and how you can apply those to research use cases. Often those use cases are oriented towards protocol authoring or documentation level use cases for large language models. We recognize that in terms of the usage of our solutions, that's not necessarily primary for us. So many of our machine learning projects that we're working on are what's considered more of a narrow learning model, and it's focused on enabling within the workflow. We are looking currently at the study design and build processes and how we can use machine learning to increase the quality of those so that when the data gets all the way downstream and to the statistical programming teams, they don't have to transform the data significantly because the compliance up front has been assisted through the use of those types of tooling solutions. So we're very focused on use cases like that and examples that our customers have brought forward that are very, very oriented towards that value, that measurable outcome. Because to us, that's where the investment needs to go, is where we're delivering a measurable outcome to our users, and they're really seeing the value from the investment.
Mm-hmm. So we have someone asking, do you have customers using AI functionality today?
Yes, we do. Absolutely. Our medical coding with AI is used in a significant portion of our portfolio, and that's rising. We encourage our customers to use it because it is so valuable to those who have been using it over time. And as we launch new machine learning capabilities, those are deployed out into our product, meaning they are accessible to our user base once they are released. So it's not just one customer who can benefit from them. So as we release new features and functionalities, we do lean on our user forum and our places where we can educate and inform to encourage usage and uptake of those solutions over time.
This is an interesting one. Where do you see opportunity for the clinical trial space?
Oh, wow. Research is so dynamic, right? I think about the way trials are executed when I started my career and how they're being designed and executed now. And I'm not sure we really could have foreseen how the research itself has evolved. So in terms of opportunities, I think for us as a technology provider, the opportunity is for us to really lift that. You know, that complexity, how can we make that so much better? That goes back to our vision, right? To us, the opportunity is to make research be as challenging as it needs to be and as effective as it needs to be while we're helping drive the efficiency and the capability. So I look at this as ways for us to help our customers transform their processes, become more efficient, how they're using technology. There's a lot of new wearables and tooling and capabilities that can be accessed for research. And we have to help with that because that's where the opportunity exists, to support the complexity with these solutions that make it effective and efficient. And so that's a lot of our focus. And then you layer in machine learning and all the other technological capabilities that are out there now. And it's really exciting for us. We love talking to our customers about this. And we love the ideas they bring us because it's been really informative for us to grab those opportunities and help them realize the benefit.
And we had another question that came in that said, what is your take on how AI and ML can be used in clinical trial technology? So that kind of goes into that. And I don't want anyone to think that we're skipping over their question. So if you have anything else to say to that one, but that kind of, reaches into to talk to the same thing. If you love talking to people about how it can be used.
Right.
Any other thoughts on, the AI or machine learning in the technology?
I mean, I would go back to a little bit of what I shared during the presentation. Machine learning is hugely dynamic and very exciting. And we need to be very honest about the opportunities and potential for it to be effective as a tool and a solution. And so for me, we try and stay on top of how machine learning is being used in the industry, those use cases, edge use cases, as my product management leader likes to talk about. We look at those, we monitor those. And we also work with our customers to understand what are they being asked to do and where are they seeing real pain points. And I do think machine learning is one of the tools in the toolbox to solve for those things, but we shouldn't get kind of starstruck by the possibilities. Sometimes the simple answer is the best, and machine learning may not be the simple answer. So we need to have that balance. So as we think about machine learning, there's huge potential, very exciting opportunity. We need to stay abreast of it, informed, and we also need to look at other ways to solve for challenges that go beyond just machine learning solutions.
Yeah, it's great. Don't be necessarily focused just on the shiny new thing, but be open to everything. And
yeah,
great. Let's see. With so many different technologies being used across the traditional, hybrid, and decentralized global trials, what are some best practices to improve interoperability and usability for sites?
Yeah. I think as an industry, there's a recognition that this concept of fully virtual or fully decentralized trials isn't necessarily the answer for everything. And so as we look at an environment where hybrid is becoming the most common use case, where I have some digital solutions where digital makes sense, and then I have the site and the person-led solutions where that makes sense and they come together. From my perspective, that's what we have to solve for, is a world where we have that hybrid enablement. And in the landscape where we operate, within the technology landscape for clinical research, different providers approach this in different ways. And for us, we believe that a very open approach, an ecosystem-led approach, where we offer open APIs, that we're not restrictive about these use cases for the technology, that supports the hybrid concept and is fundamental to what I think makes it possible to execute hybrid trials. And we do have a use case where there's a fully virtual study and it's running on the platform and it's working great, and that worked for the use case that they were operating in. But we don't see those fully virtual studies as the norm. The hybrid is more of the norm that we see, and that's where that flexibility with data integration, the open APIs, making it simple to do it, because you might want to try something out in one study and then pull back and maybe do it differently in another study. That's where you get the value out of that capability. And so the right partners who are open to ecosystem, who have the right tooling to support that dynamic hybrid model and understand it, that to me is key to success in the world of hybrid trials.
Great, thank you so much. Well, looking over the other questions that we have, some of them seem to be ones that you will need to get a little more information on to be able to answer well. So I think those would be best for you to answer offline. But Jennifer, thank you so much. A great presentation. So much going on right now. So much information, everything developing day to day. I can't wait to see where all of this goes. But right now, great things going on at Zelta. So thank you so much. Great to hear from you today. Thank you so much for joining us, and for everyone who joined us today. If we did not get to your question, we will be in contact with you. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you again soon. Have a great rest of your day.